The United States and China are set to resume trade talks in the coming weeks, as a new report shows that China has added around 100 tons of gold to its reserve in just the last 9 months. RT's Rachel Blevins joins me now with all of the latest. Now, Rachel, how are these latest revelations impacting the relationship between the two countries? I thought we were making some good grounds, and it seemed optimism was pouring from both countries over the weekend.
Well, Scotty, the United States and China are saying that they have plans to have trade talks in October, but that also happens to be when the U.S. is set to increase tariffs on Chinese imports once again. Now, Trump's Treasury Secretary confirmed on Monday that meetings are set to be held early next month here in Washington, which will mark the first high-level talks in person between U.S. and Chinese officials since July.
I expect the governor of the People's Bank of China to come over for these talks, so part of the conversations we will be having with them is around currency and currency manipulation.
He also downplayed concerns that the U.S. is heading for a recession in the coming months, and he insisted the U.S. economy is strong and China is the country that is struggling.
I think there's no question the U.S. economy is in very good shape. As we look around the world, there's no question that China is slowing, Europe is slowing. The U.S. is the bright spot of the world.
China's Commerce Ministry also released a statement and said lead negotiators from both sides had a really good phone call where they agreed that they will strive to achieve substantial progress during the 13th set of high-level negotiations between China and the U.S. Meanwhile, as the trade war has continued, China's central bank has added around 100 tons of gold to its reserves in the last 9 months, bringing the country to its highest level of gold holdings in 6 years. Now, experts have noted that the restrictions from the trade war have given China an incentive to diversify. And with increasing political and economic uncertainty prevailing, gold has provided an ideal hedge that attracts central banks around the world. But even with the promise of trade talks in the coming weeks, the Trump administration is not backing away from moves to impose tariffs on virtually all remaining imports from China. The latest round, which went into effect on September 1st, marked the start of the Trump administration's plan to impose tariffs on the remaining $300 billion worth of Chinese imports, which specifically target consumer goods. China has also continued to retaliate, and new tariffs from Beijing on $75 billion worth of U.S. imports that went into effect this month marked the first time that China specifically targeted crude oil. So, Scotty, as we see, the U.S. and China are saying that they have plans for trade talks, but there are still concerns that these talks won't lead to an official peace deal between the two countries, especially as we have the U.S. continuing to say that it plans to impose new tariffs. And at the same time, President Trump is already saying that if he's reelected, he plans to make China face an even tougher U.S. foreign policy.
Well, it's a great wait and see, but we have this holiday season coming up, which obviously a lot of parents are hoping that they won't have to pay more for some of those gifts for little Molly and little Joe. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's hard to clear through the debris and get right down to the nitty-gritty that is real news.
New details are coming to light in the case of Jeffrey Epstein as more
spread between the 2-year Treasury yield and the 10-year Treasury yield.
Several hundred students are staging a sit-in.
The Amazon rainforest, and the blame game is underway. It's time for RT America. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button.